Hello and welcome to the next edition of Malicious Compliance. I decided to have more fun, so I hope you enjoyed the sound effects. Also, I want to give a special thanks to all my Patreons. I just canceled it lately. This is mainly because this is a hobby and I felt really obligated. I know they probably didn't care, but I did. It was a conscious matter. I want to give a special thanks to them for all the support they have given. This will actually help me to be able to think about enjoying myself. So in the future, if any of you want to support my channel, make sure to hit that like button and comment below. And if you feel extra generous and you like cool stuff, check out my merchandise. You can also give me other ideas and stuff I can put on there. So hope you check that out. I'll have a link in the description. If you have any questions, you can email me and I'll answer you back, or leave it in the comments and I'll try to get to you. And without further ado, here we go. I was at the doctor's office today, and I had to bring my 15-month-old twins with me. These kiddos do not enjoy being cooped up in a stroller, but letting them wander around is not an option, since they both will immediately bolt in opposite directions. They have clean nappies, and they've been fed and hydrated, so at this point, any fussing is just stroller-related crankiness. In preparation for having to wait a while, and wanting to be considerate of others who are waiting in room purgatory with me, I pack up the diaper bag full of endless snacks and sippy cups. Sure enough, 5 minutes in, they lose their minds, so I instantly start giving them snacks, and also walking back and forth in the very large waiting room. I'm in the back area, and I'm not even close to anyone else, and I'm not in anyone's way, and as long as I'm pacing back and forth, these beasties are quietly munching away on their Cheerios. At one point, I stopped pacing to hear the doctor mumble the next patient's name, and this is where the cranky old lady decided to weigh in on my parenting. I hear a huffing noise, and I look over at her, and the second we make eye contact, she says, "Oh God, you have to stop walking up and down the back area. You're making me dizzy. Also, you really shouldn't be feeding them that much. Just sit down and they'll relax too. Watching toddlers really shouldn't be that hard, hon." Thanks a lot. Firstly, while my girls are very healthy, they were preemies, and they were only born about 3 pounds, and they're still very tiny, so I'll feed them as many Cheerios as I want. Secondly, I was doing all this not for myself or the twins, but for the benefit of all those around us. Finally, I was waiting to find out if my scan showed cancer or not. Hooray, scans were clean. So I really didn't care at this moment. Now for the malicious compliance. I take her advice, and I sit down right next to her, with a ton of empty seats everywhere, by the way. Instantly, they start screaming their heads off. And what do? I pull out my book and start reading. Anyone ever being seated next to strangers who have babies having a meltdown, close your eyes. Imagine that moment, and double it to account for twins. Within 5 minutes, she was looking like she was about to snap, and she suggests, "Maybe they might want a snack." To which I calmly replied, "No, I really shouldn't be feeding them that much." And I calmly turned the page of my book. 10 minutes later and my name is finally called, and this lady looks like she's ready to give up on life. I, however, for the first time was able to read a full chapter. I guess watching toddlers really isn't that hard after all. I worked for a medical transportation company, and we had a contract with Medicaid. One of the many rules was that we could not provide any assistance to the patient inside their home. One elderly lady had an old house. It had a very small foyer. Now you had to climb 3 steps to get to the main floor. The only other entrance was around the back. It was up 2.5 flights of rickety stairs, which opened up to an old deck that opened up to her bedroom. On the inside, which was upstairs, she was in a wheelchair. Common sense says to take her in the front door, up just 3 steps, and she's home on the level she lives on. Medicaid says we have to take her up the outside stairs, dump her in the bedroom upstairs, and let her worry about getting down to the living room level. I ignored their policy and I took her to the front door anyway. A random inspection by a random inspector showed up, and they said that we were not in compliance. We appealed, and the inspector came out and saw the different options, and he decided that we had no case for appeal.
You gotta take her up the outside stairs.
Nope. From then on, when the driver arrived at her house, he would get her out of the van onto the sidewalk, and then we'd get the radio and tell the boss to shove his stupid job. Then we were no longer employees, so we was free to assist this lovely person to her front door up the stairs. Once finished, we would come back to the van, tell the boss that we reconsidered, and ask for our job back. The boss always understood and took them back, but very carefully noted the 10 or 15 minute break. This was to show that the company remained in compliance. So me and the other employees, we had a contest to see who had the most dramatic I quit scene. Medicaid noted our activity, but they couldn't put a handle on how to stop it. Malicious compliance achieved. This is an old tale about a coworker. To this day, I'm not sure if it's accidental or intentional, but I'm leaning towards intentional. In my area, people who like to become active in local politics usually start by making their name visible in the community. One way to do this is to get tapped as a board member for a charity. The owner of the company I worked for, he had these aspirations to become a political figure, and I think he still does. He volunteered as a chairman for a charity fundraiser. This was the type of fundraiser where you had to convince people to donate a portion of their paycheck each month, which was taken out as a deduction at payroll time. If a chairman was successful at this fundraiser, he would very likely be nominated for the charity board. The charity suggested that a chairman should have at least a 97% compliance at their own company, so every employee was pressured hard to contribute. Now, my coworker Bonnie, she was a long-time employee. She wasn't smart in many ways. She couldn't handle an Excel spreadsheet, and she had trouble adding columns of numbers. She was excellent at customer relations. She always remembered names, had a sweet and helpful disposition, and she was a ninja at calendar and appointments. She was our front desk receptionist. The customers loved her, and they always remembered her name. Because of her deficiencies, she was never promoted off the front desk, and she never got a raise. When the charity campaign happened, Bonnie was adamant that she couldn't afford to give any money away. As the campaign participation rate climbed closer and closer to the magic 97%, the pressure on the employees got even more and more intense. Finally, it came down to the point where each individual holdout was getting a one-on-one education about how helpful this charity was. Bonnie got her one-on-one with the owner himself. She didn't budge. She just kept saying over and over that she couldn't afford it. Because she was so bad at math, the owner decided that she simply needed to learn how to budget better. He volunteered to show her how. She happily agreed. So one day, Bonnie brought all of her monthly bills and bank statements. The owner took her into the conference room and helped her work out her budget. The other employees, including me, watched with great interest. After about 3 to 4 hours, the owner came out of the conference room dazed and shell-shocked. Bonnie gathered all of her papers and retreated to the break room for a coffee break. Of course, all the employees needed a coffee break too. Bonnie, being the happy and talkative person she was, had no problem talking about what happened. Turns out that Bonnie had a very well-constructed budget, and she managed her money wisely. She didn't have any room for extras. But now, everything was great. The owner worked over her budget, and he couldn't find any room. So he decided that she needed a raise. Bonnie told him that that was wonderful, because now she can afford to add HBO.
Ooh, HBO.
The owner tried to explain that's not what the raise was for, but Bonnie asked if he had HBO. He had to admit that he did. So if he had HBO, why would she need to sacrifice her HBO for the charity deduction? The owner caved and agreed that she deserved HBO. So he added another raise, and she was delighted because now she can afford this other thing.
Sweet.
because she was never able to afford it before. He tried to explain that the raise was for the charity deduction, but once again, she asked if he had it, and if he didn't need to give it up for the charity deduction, why should she? In the end, she got quite a large raise, everything she always wanted, and she could now afford, plus enough left over to contribute for the charity drive. So she complied with the request to contribute, and now the company was at 100%. But, Bunny explained, that was okay. The charity drive was only for 1 year. The raise was permanent. So that was almost a guaranteed raise next year. We had a new gas station convenience store open up in our area. I went to do some shopping. Now, this isn't a normal gas station. It has a restaurant, fishing and hunting section, along with a gas station. It had just recently opened up and it was really busy. I spent $75 and some change. I paid with a $100 bill. On the way out, I realized I got $10 too much change back. I went back in to return the extra money to the cashier. I walked up and he said,
The line ends back there.
in a very sarcastic tone. I waited in the long line, and when I finally got back to the cashier, I tell him, "You gave me the wrong change." He immediately blurts out,
I gave you the right change.
and he started making a scene. He cuts me off every time I try to interject. Finally, he tells me,
I know how to do my job. Get out of here. It was most definitely correct.
At this point, I'm tired of messing around with this guy, and I decide to maliciously comply. I give up and I say fine, and he finally quits talking long enough for me to say to him, "Your drawer's gonna be $10 short, cause you gave me too much money." I say this as I walk out the door. His expression was priceless. I live in a small town, and I knew the owner, so I called him up the next day and I told him what happened. He told me that the register came up $100 short, and he was none too happy. He was glad that I called, because the cashier, he was trying to cover up his screw-ups. Not only getting a free $10, the owner gave me a $20 gift card. If you enjoyed these stories, please leave a like and subscribe for more. All stories from Reddit and other external sites are linked in the description below. If you have any stories you'd like to share, you can send it to my email at funwithfailure@gmail.com.